everyone is doing well. Um, I appreciate everyone for being here. Let me go to, hold on. Du-du-du-du-du.
Most shocking part?
Okay. All right. So yeah, thanks for being here, everyone. I appreciate everyone for being here. Going live a little early. I have some things I have to take care of, and I just wanted to get in here, talk with you all. And thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21, where we talk hot topics, trending topics. I bring out the TTT. Um, we cover the Diddy trial. We cover hot topics, trending topics. We talk about a lot over here, and we debunk stuff. We're not here to shade, drag out, not bring out the proper information. If I find out that something's not actual factual, I will bring it up. If I'm wrong in some certain situations, we'll bring it up. But thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. As I get myself together on this side, of course, we're going to go ahead and do the disclaimer. Not a lot of people are live, and I'm not surprised. It can be kind of taxing talking about the Diddy trial, covering the Diddy trial, but we're going to do the best we can to update you guys on. Jane Doe was cross examined yesterday, which I kind of figured she would be. And a lot of people are saying she did extremely well. In regards to some of the questions she was asked, she looked as Diddy as her partner. They definitely asked her, well, did you like certain things? How did you feel about certain things? Were you okay with using certain things? So a lot was covered yesterday, and a lot of people are kind of happy that she did do well. So let's go ahead and get through the disclaimer, like always. That way I can protect my channel, protect myself. Let's see. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, so we're gonna get to what transpired, what's being talked about, and you know, Jane Doe was cross-examined yesterday, and many people feel that she did well, which is a good thing. Because I had told y'all in certain situations they're going to make the people that are on the stand look a certain way, and hopefully from this point on, everyone that has to take that stand, they better know their dates, their times. Diddy's team was asking for a mistrial. Yes, they were, and asking for the mistrial because they felt that the young lady that talked about the balcony situation, they felt that the dates were concerning, which we had talked about that as well. Meaning the dates she gave was allegedly time frames that Diddy was not near her by her. He might have been at an award show, but unless they show us the flight logs, who's to say he wasn't? Hi, good morning, good morning. Who's to say that he didn't go to the award ceremony, fly out, and then go? Who knows? But the biggest thing is they're saying that the dates that she gave the girl prior to Jane Doe was not the proper dates. So that's why Diddy's team was asking for a mistrial because they felt the person prior to Jane Doe gave misinformation. And then the judge is basically saying, well, who's to say because of the substances, who's to say it wasn't prior to or a little after? Because you got to remember when people are on substances, the dates and stuff aren't going to match up. So she's probably thinking a certain time frame, but I would say the teams should have made sure that he was not in prior to. She should have made sure. Okay, let me look this up. It's easy to look up where he was. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. I appreciate everyone for being here. Be kind in the comments or it will be timed out. I don't play in my comments. But I appreciate everyone for being here. Not certain what all this means, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. I don't have time for that in the morning. We're talking hot topics, trending topics, and nothing else, baby. Okay, so we're gonna get to some video clips in regards to what Jane Doe had to state, how she felt in the relationship, how she noticed Diddy showing love to other women, purchasing them items, and her basically not receiving that same type of love and support, even though they had dated for a while. She was seeing how he was love bombing. I'll just say it. She was seeing how he was love bombing Young Miami. The shopping sprees, taking her out, the different pictures. The Jane Doe was a little upset about how he was showing love to Young Miami. They talked about the shopping spree. Many people posted that when Diddy and Young Miami went to Chanel and they were shopping, and then Young Miami was showing the things that she was purchasing. She had a little cute little outfit on with a little hat, and as they're leaving the building, Diddy's kind of scratching his head like, "What just happened?" So it seems as if Young Miami spent a lot of money at the Chanel store. Yes, she did. And I guess, certain women, with whatever their standards are, either a guy's going to meet that or not meet that and just go to the next girl. But I'm wondering if Young Miami's going to take the stand. I'm wondering who's the next person after Young Miami. Real talk. There are a lot of people that we've seen with Diddy over the last 5 years, and we're wondering who else is going to take the stand that was near him, by him, and we get that they have to get through people that he dated. What was going on? What was happening? They're building, and they're building. We got to definitely give it time in regards to what this whole trial is about. But the women are speaking up and speaking out on how they feel, of how they were treated by him. We're going to do some commentary through News Nation. We're going to do some commentary through Law Crimes, but we're going to get to some hot topics, training topics, and we're going to cover how she did on the stand. Good morning, everyone. Like the video as you guys come in. Yes, we're a little early today, so I hope everyone can subscribe and double click the button to hit the like. It's free to hit the like button. um Memberships are over there. Super chats are welcome. But we're going to get to some topics in regards to Jane Doe. You guys let me know, how do you feel about the people that have taken the stand? Do you feel that the people that's taken the stand, they're treated right? A lot of them seem very credible, but then at certain times maybe not so credible. Could it be that the dates and times are kind of confusing for them because of the substances? They also talked about Diddy's general appearance. I have to be careful what I say. There were some things that Jane Doe had noticed in regards to Diddy, and she was wanting to get him admitted because of his substance use. She was noticing some things in regards to his mouth. I'll be general so I don't gross people out. And she was noticing certain things, and she was like, "Babe, you really need to get some assistance and help, because I'm seeing, it's almost like she was saying that his health was slightly deteriorating." And he was just like, and she had noticed that there were substances throughout, but it seems as if maybe things were getting a little worse, maybe. But here nor there, Jane Doe was noticing things in regards to Diddy's health concerns and wanting to even take him out of the country to get some medical assistance and help. But as you guys know, in regards to the trial, they're not talking about people's health concerns. They're not covering that. That's been excluded, which I get, because there is HIPAA situation. So that's why we're only generally talking about, she noticed that there were some concerns with his mouth. I don't know what that is. I'm not a doctor. Can't confirm or deny if he was having any concerns. But Cassie talked about her health concerns in regards to her mouth and her stomach and other areas. So, the things that they were doing, it's very clear that it's being stated that there wasn't a lot of protection being used to protect their bodies, which is concerning. So the women were dealing with health concerns, And we'll just be general because I ain't trying to gross nobody out. But, that's a lot. And who wants to pass their girl off to another man that they don't know? And has he been tested? And are you clear of anything? How many partners have you had? None of that. But we're gonna go ahead and get to some clips, and we're gonna break down what Jane Doe is feeling, thinking, and how she's doing on the stand. So let's get to that. We're gonna go to News Nation. This is Armand giving his feedback. She's gonna talk first, and then
that there'd be like tears and explosions, and a call for mistrial over the way a witness was being
fair use reaction clip. Let's get to it.
cross-examined, because it's a really important witness. And I can say this: bending one's own preferences or
Good morning, everyone. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before, where you're watching from. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Let's get to the video. Be kind in the comments. YouTube will block out your comments, so be kind in the comments. Let's continue.
goals or attitudes to find common ground with your husband or your wife or your partner or your lover, that is generally considered to be a sign of a healthy relationship. Think we can agree on that? But in the Diddy trial, it could be proof of racketeering and maybe even sex trafficking or both. A witness that's being identified only as Jane was back on the stand today, and no doubt she was bracing for the hell, that we all expected, like this vigorous cross-examination that was going to burst to paces, probing like the thin and the blurry line between free will and coercion. Jane was part of Diddy's life, and vice versa. They were lovers for 3 years, and today, I don't know, this is hard. I was kind of stunned when she said it. She said she still loved Diddy. She loved him then, and still loves him today, after everything we have heard that she's been through.
And it's being reported allegedly he's still paying her rent. Now, I don't know if he's still paying her rent after today. Like the video, like the video. Good morning, Kentucky. Fair use reaction clip. What else? There was something else I was going to say. Allegedly, yeah, he was still paying her rent up until she hit that stand. Now, will he tell his financial advisor stop supporting her because she testified against him? Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Hello, good morning, New Jersey. Good morning, Kentucky. Let's continue, fair use.
Said she did not understand going in what that love would cost her. She said that she broke her own boundaries with so-called hotel nights, right? That's the other term for freak-offs that we heard with Cassie, the other girlfriend who went through it, she said. Just to be the girlfriend that Diddy wanted. She said she didn't know what it was going to take and got in too deep too fast. Confronted with her own text messages and voice messages in which she said she didn't mind those hotel nights, freak-offs, Jane said that that was to keep Diddy from feeling rejected. The defense pointed out that Jane sometimes arranged those escorts and those like super kinky nights herself, to which Jane said, quote, "I knew there was an undertone, an expectation of me," end quote. And if it sounded like she was addicted to Sean Diddy Combs, it is entirely possible he may have been just as hooked on her, because in a voicemail that jurors heard today,
yeah, he was paying her rent and gave her, well, that was going towards the rent. I guess it's being reported allegedly he was giving her about 10 grand a month, and she was allegedly receiving money from the baby father. Also, I think they're talking about I'm gonna be general here too. My page is a little different because I like to protect my page. They're talking about a juror that they're wanting to get booted out. Um, and there's different reasoning why people are saying that. We'll see if it does happen. But if there's an issue with jurors, they do have backup jurors. But yeah, Diddy was allegedly paying her rent, and a lot was going on in regards to the relationship. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
He called Jane, and I quote, again, these are his words, he called her the crack pipe, adding, quote, "That's my new name for you."
Which is crazy. When people were putting that in the title, I was shocked. Why would you call a woman that? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Crack pipe, call you CP, end quote. Takes all kinds. Team Diddy also introduced text between Jane and a woman identified only as KK. But if you've been following our coverage, that is presumably Diddy's former chief of staff, Christina Coram. Christina with a K, Coram with a K. The two talked about booking flights and arranging to carry drugs to Miami. I'll get back to that in a moment, because as I do the TikTok on what the law requires in racketeering, yeah, you shouldn't be using your staff, if this is what happened, to be arranging drug deals. Jane testified that she also had a phone call with KK to coordinate that drug delivery. Again, if you're keeping score, this could be considered drug trafficking, and that is one of the predicate acts to racketeering. And the feds are now calling Christina Coram a, quote, co-conspirator. No, for now she hasn't been charged, but ouch if you are her. Here's what I think is going on in the background. Again, this is me. I think she's been doing a lot of talking to the feds, trying to figure out with her attorneys, what do I do now, as in right effing now? Because if she's not getting immunity, because they said she's going to testify, she'll be charged with all the things that you're hearing the witnesses testify to. And I wouldn't want to take my chances. Speaking of drugs, Jane admitted that she chose ecstasy over cocaine and ketamine. She has an immunity deal too, Jane does. And when asked about her power to approve or...
A lot of these people that's taking the stand have immunity. They would need to because they're talking about substances. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
or reject certain sex workers. Jane said that sometimes she preferred the familiar ones to the unknown ones. Jane admitted that even now, Diddy pays her rent, a whopping $10,000 a month, and that he is still paying her legal fees, even though she stopped meeting with Diddy's lawyers. Right? Eventually, she said, "I don't think I'm being honest to the truth. I think these are her words. I'm not being honest to the..."
So he's paying her rent and her legal fees. Okay, let's continue. And allegedly, she might have been the one that he was supposed to meet up with before he got arrested. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. Let's continue.
Truth. I'm being loyal to him and not to the truth. So she stopped meeting with Diddy's lawyers, but he's still paying her legal bills. She said during their 3-year relationship, Diddy wired her $150,000 and invested $20,000 in her clothing line. Jane also admitted that she was jealous of the gifts that he was apparently buying for other women, like expensive things like a Chanel bag. Diddy's lawyer asked about a bag that Jane was gifted. And here's what the lawyer asked. What is a Bottega bag? To which Jane fired back, I'm sure you have one. And then the lawyer asked how much such a bag costs. And Jane snapped back, how much does my body cost? So, whoa, that's kind of fiery stuff.
So how much does a bag cost and how much does my body cost? So Jane Doe was a little spicy on the stand yesterday. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. I'm going to replay that one.
Jealous of the gifts that he was apparently buying for other women, like expensive things like a Chanel bag. Diddy's lawyer asked about a bag that Jane was gifted. And here's what the lawyer asked. What is a Bottega bag? To which Jane fired back, I'm sure you have one. And then the lawyer asked how much such a bag costs. And Jane snapped back, how much does my body cost? So, whoa, that's kind of fiery stuff. Jane testified that she enjoyed taking care of Diddy, including bathing him and massaging his feet, and that she did not want to judge his desires then and now, even though she says she wants to understand them. She said at one point she researched why he liked to watch her having sex with other men, and that she concluded he may have...
So that's the big question. Why does he want to watch her be with other men and not woman on woman? That's the big question. Everybody is like, yeah, now that you're saying that, why are you seeking men who are well, you know what I'm saying? Why are you seeking men to bust down? Okay. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. The response.
Bi-curious.
Fair use.
That he was unwilling to satisfy such bi-curiosity directly. I'm paraphrasing, but these are her words.
And then this is the other thing. I'm sorry. Then they would play in the sloppy seconds. Where they do that at? What's really going on? Why are you playing in the sloppy seconds? That's grossing everybody out too. Let's continue. After he has his girls be with these men, they're playing. He wants to play in the sloppy seconds. Weird. Concerning. I'm sorry. What's really going on? Fair use reaction clip.
Under oath. My guest was in the courtroom for all of this. Armin Wiggins is a journalist and an author who moved to New York just to cover this trial, so that is commitment. He breaks this all down on his YouTube show and his podcast, The Armin Wiggins Show. Armin, I have said this before, I'll say it again. I think you have a really, really great insight that a lot of people are missing in this trial, which is why I'm going to ask you back early and often. So give me a little bit of a lowdown on Jane. I feel like something really changed today.
Listen, today was explosive for me just because up until this point, I didn't know how to take Jane because I just felt like, okay, she was very emotionally charged through the prosecution testimony. But today we saw a different Jane. She was ready. She was ready for the defense. And to me, by far, she was the most poised, testimony that went against the defense in this trial. To me, she showed credibility.
Okay, so here's what I want to ask you. Because when you don't have cameras in the courtroom, and you're relegated to accepting these chalk drawings, it makes me crazy because there's so much that comes through in communication through nuance that you can't put on the printed page. And all the reporters are doing an amazing job, that it's not the same as your two eyes because you're watching it, you're feeling it. I got the sense from reading a lot about this that Jane was this soft-spoken, very vulnerable witness and very believable, sobbing, gasping, trying to get her ugly crying on the stand up until today when suddenly she is mad AF and is showing a different side that maybe the jury will think, was I being played the last 3 days?
I don't think that's what that was. I think that she showed strength because the defense has had a reputation of breaking down every witness that came up there until today. I think that she literally drove that cross today, and I think she did a great job. For me, it was one of those things that because the defense was trying to make it seem as though she had control over the freak-offs and she was in on that, I think that her job today was to say, hey, listen, I'm not going to hide from the fact that I love Diddy, that I'm still in love with Diddy, that I cared about him. I did care about him. I do care about him. He still pays my bills. I don't want to be here. I care about this guy. But let's be very clear here. I know that there's an undertone to the things that he asks me. So when you guys guys are reading these things off a piece of paper, or you guys are reading these text messages, understand that I'm looking at these from a different lens. So when he tells me be explicit, or when he tells me set it up, that's not just me setting it up because I want to. It's me setting it up because, listen, I'm dating a millionaire, a billionaire, a man with a lot of power. He's arrogant, he's narcissistic, he's controlling. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to have a good time. I love this guy, but if I tell him...
For women he date, there's an expectation of what they're supposed to do for him if he's doing certain things for them. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. News Nation and Armand is giving a breakdown. Go subscribe. Let them know that Let's Talk About It Media 21 sent y'all over there. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
I don't want to do something, I know that the whole day is going to be ruined, the mood is going to be ruined, and then he might threaten to break up with me, which entails he's no longer going to pay this $10,000 rent. So you know what? Our whole relationship is based on this fantasy thing that we do. So when he starts saying, talk to me, lead me, I want you to show me what you got with it, that means engage. Let's talk about the freak offs. Let's talk about other men, because ultimately, that's what you want to get to. Diddy had an affinity for other men and watching her have sex with other men, period. And she knew that. And the way to get close with him, to feed his ego, to give him what he wanted, and to keep the peace, she fed into it.
So, but here's the thing. There are a lot of relationships like that, right? Does it rise to the level of sex trafficking and racketeering is the issue for this jury. So to that, I ask you, and by the way, great insight, because I had a totally different lens having read it, so thank you for this. But what I want to know is, last week when you and I spoke, you got the sense, kind of like I did, that this was somebody who just wanted a really nice apartment, and that she was going through with all these awful things to keep a really nice apartment. And to me, that's not sex trafficking. And you seem to have that same sense. Did you change your mind, given what I thought was going to be a withering cross-examination today?
I did, because I feel like she controlled the whole testimony, because when the defense would try to set up and say, well, you set these things up and you like the freak off, she said, no, I liked being with him. We did the freak offs because that was part of the culture. That is what we did. But let's be clear here, it's not just me setting this up. He asked me to take charge. This is why I did these things. I personally feel that Jane is more credible today because she was very confident. She was poised in her delivery. She even got sassy. She fired her back. And I think that she knows what she wanted. Listen, and she didn't shy away again from the fact that, yes, I liked him. I loved him. I would still be with him today, But at the end of the day, I didn't know that I was going to be introduced to this lifestyle. And so what they're trying to get him on is sex trafficking by fraud. And I think the fraud part is the materialized thing that he promised her. You're going to be my boyfriend. You're going to be my boyfriend. We're going to go on trips. I'm going to buy you nice things. Those things never happened and then when they did happen, she was met with a freak off.
Listen, you are great. It's so helpful to have.
It's interesting that that's the expectation, that the women have to do that just to be with him. They're feeding into what his needs are. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Let me know how y'all feel about the witnesses and how they're being cross-examined.
Your perspective
fair
and your
use
eyes
reaction
on,
clip.
because like I said, perception can be so different when you're just trying to get it through like the spoken word. I'm going to go on my soapbox again, Armin. Cameras in the courtroom. It's just crazy not to have them. Will you come back again?
Yes, let me tell you something. Thank you so much for keep having me on here. I'm having a great time. You're such a great person. And shout out to everyone in your team. Thank you.
Right back at you, Armin.
So I think Armand's doing a great job covering the trial, giving his feedback, what Jane Doe is speaking on, talking about her relationship with Diddy, what the expectations of her being in the relationship with Diddy. It's very clear these women had to do X, Y, and Z to be with him. And sometimes when they're thinking they're gonna be with him, then it's the FOs. So let's get to the next clip. Fair use reaction clip. I don't know, y'all. It's a lot. And he has to sit there and listen to his past relationships. And the jurors have to sit and listen to all that stuff. Let's get to it.
That she performed sex acts with men for Sean Combs' pleasure, including after she claimed she threw up, after she claimed she was exhausted, after she claimed she repeatedly expressed her reluctance to continuing these hotel nights. She testified that she was subject to Combs' physical violence. After all of this, now she is facing questioning from defense attorney Tenny Garagos. And remember why her testimony is so important. It's important for several reasons. For sex trafficking, she claims that she had sexual relations with men in all different locations where these men were being paid. And if the prosecution can show that she was coerced or forced into these commercial sex acts, that's the key. The prostitution charge, her testimony that she was transported to different locations for these hotel nights, that the men were paid through Combs, that their travel to these places was paid and arranged through Combs. That's a more linear way to get the transportation to engage in prostitution. Racketeering conspiracy, the top.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Please hit the like button. Thanks for hitting the like button. I appreciate you guys. It's very clear you guys have been here before. There's about 437 in the building. If I can get 400 people to please subscribe and turn on your notification. Let's continue. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Charge, right? We're talking about an alleged criminal enterprise, criminal association. Well, her testimony arguably supports that by saying that assistants, right, Sean Combs' inner circle, set up these nights, that she was a victim of coerced sexual activity. Sex trafficking is an underlying predicate crime of RICO. And generally, the more the prosecution can show a pattern of abuse of women, as they outline in their indictment, that helps with the RICO charge. Hey, everybody, this is another Law and Crime Legal Alert. Recent allegations against the multi-billion-dollar video game industry, dgclaims.com/sidebar to answer. After getting an immunity deal to testify for the prosecution, but
hold on.
Defense was kind of like, okay, well, the government didn't offer any response to this particular hotel receipt, but then the judge was kind of like, well, Nicole Westmoreland really did have her Perry Mason moment under the cross-examination, and that's not grounds for a mistrial because they were kind of able to really kind of poke holes into the story that Vanna was testifying to, as opposed to that Trump hotel receipt, which showed that Diddy wasn't even on the West Coast when this alleged incident particularly happened. And then the defense was like, well, Cassie said that she saw this incident happen, but then in the text message she's saying that she saw or she heard about this incident, she was told about this incident after the fact. And so the defense says that they wanted to submit a certain instruction to the jury so that way the jurors know that Vanna's testimony was allegedly perjured. But the government was like, well, Vanna's testimony wasn't perjured. She might have been confused. The metadata could have been wrong because when they were still showing exhibits at this point, you could see the metadata of when Vanna took her, was sent photos of her injuries after this alleged incident happened. Those injuries were taken or at least sent to her on September 26th, but on that same day, Diddy was, there's a hotel receipt showing that Diddy was actually here in New York, not in California around this time. But the judge said, well, maybe there's this innocent explanation that this happened 9 years ago. Vanna testified that she was in her early 20s at this point, addicted to drugs, and that this photo could have been taken earlier, it could have been taken later, and that the defense did enough on the cross-examination to really attack the timing of when this alleged incident happened. But the defense was like, well, the government still isn't bringing up this hotel receipt. And
see, I told y'all that some of the dates weren't matching up. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And Dr. Dawn Hughes.
Well, after spending an entire day of court, you can kind of possibly guess that the judge did deny that motion for a mistrial, and there was a lot of reasoning behind it. So the defense, as far as the motion being denied, the judge was saying that no interference happened and that the defense was able to undermine the alleged incident, and that being Vanna being allegedly dangled off of the 17-story balcony over at Cassie's condo. And the judge was saying, well, you guys were able to undermine this alleged incident by showing the hotel receipt. And so he said that this isn't fodder for a mistrial, and that the defense can use these exhibits to undermine both Vanna's testimony as well as Cassie's testimony. And so they kind of had more discussions about it, and the defense was like, well, we didn't know what Vanna was going to say while she was on the stand, because a lot of their motion for the mistrial really had to do with Vanna's testimony and how they believed that she had perjured herself after getting an immunity deal to testify for the prosecution. But they being the defense was kind of like, okay, well, the government didn't offer any response to this particular hotel receipt, but then the judge was kind of like, well, Nicole Westmoreland really did have her Perry Mason moment under the cross-examination, and that's not grounds for a mistrial because they were kind of able to really kind of poke holes into the story that Vanna was testifying to, as opposed to that Trump hotel receipt, which showed that Diddy wasn't even on the West Coast when this alleged incident particularly happened. And then the defense was like, well, Cassie said that she saw this incident happen, but then in the text message she's saying that she saw or she heard about this incident, she was told about this incident after the fact. And so the defense says that they wanted to submit a certain instruction to the jury so that way the jurors know that Vanna's testimony was allegedly perjured. But the government was like, well, Vanna's testimony wasn't perjured. She might have been confused. The metadata could have been wrong because when they were still showing exhibits at this point, you could see the metadata of when Vanna took her, was sent photos of her injuries after this alleged incident happened. Those injuries.
So she did show that her injuries happened. But like I said, if they don't show the flight logs that he was in and out, who's to say that things didn't transpire? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Were taken or at least sent to her on September 26th, but on that same day, Diddy was, there's a hotel receipt showing that Diddy was actually here in New York, not in California around this time. But the judge said, well, maybe there's this innocent explanation that this happened 9 years ago. Vanna testified that she was in her early 20s at this point, addicted to drugs, and that this photo could have been taken earlier, it could have been taken later, and that the defense did enough on the cross-examination to really attack the timing of when this alleged incident happened. But the defense was like, well, the government still isn't bringing up this hotel receipt, and Vanna had motivation to lie while on the witness stand because of her civil suit against Sean Combs. And then the judge was like, okay, well, you can submit a proposed instruction for the jury to listen to. And then the defense was like, okay. But as far as the motion to recall Dr. Dawn Hughes to testify, that motion was denied. And so it was interesting because during the cross-examination of Dr. Dawn Hughes, who was a government witness, she was kind of a blind witness to this case, Jonathan Bach, who was retained kind of last minute for Diddy's defense team, that was the only time we actually saw him inside the court doing the cross-examination when Dr. Dawn Hughes testified. But we did see him today, and I think we might have seen him today, especially this morning, just in the case that the judge didn't deny this motion, and so that Jonathan Bach could possibly argue it, but we didn't see him after the lunch break. But
so apparently I'm not 23 years old.
So they're doing a cross-examine, and they're talking about some of Jane Doe's injuries. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, you guys, and subscribe. Yeah, they're talking about some of her injuries and Diddy being at an award show and what happened. So I'm wondering, did she also show her medical records and that the furniture was damaged? I'm wondering what pictures were shown in court. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before and where you're watching from. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching from a phone, press 1 and double tap the screen, please, to hit the like. Double tap the screen, please, to hit the like. Let's continue. Fair use.
Employee relationships when it comes to Mia, and specifically Mia still sending text messages to Diddy even after she was kind of terminated from her employment, but also after the allegations that she said that she had against Diddy, where she was saying that Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted and sexually abused her. The judge was kind of like, okay, well, that was the government's job to really ask those questions as far as the employee relationships and why people may text their employer after the fact. And so it seemed like the judge gave a win to both sides this morning, either the motion for the mistrial or even the motion to recall Dr. Don Hughes. And so that was kind of what it all happened this morning before the jury entered and before the witness came back on the stand.
That's so specific, right? So you can't just make, I guess the judge said, you can't just make a general analysis that any victim abuser relationship, there has to be, if she testified about a romantic relationship and the dynamics of a romantic relationship as opposed to anybody else who might be abused. Yeah, it sounds like the prosecution should have thought of that, and that could be a problem. That could be a problem. Although you also wonder, the jury might just listen to Dr. Don Hughes and use that analysis to explain away some of the behavior of any of the witnesses who testified. I don't know. Don't want to get down that hole. I do want to talk about Jane. And it seemed the beginning of her cross-examination by Teddy Garagos was about the circumstances that brought her to even be a witness in this trial, right?
Well, right off the bat, Teddy Garagos, very friendly, I felt like, with Jane while she was on the witness stand. You would think that the two were kind of old friends catching up. Obviously, we know that's not the case, but Teddy came out very nice. She wasn't kind of like aggressive necessarily. It wasn't kind of like the Brian Steele moment of the cross-examination of Mia.
Good morning, Maryland. Good morning, Australia. Good morning, Philadelphia. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. Thanks for supporting the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Even the Nicole Westmoreland cross-examination of Vaughn or even Don Richard. But right off the bat, the defense was acknowledging or that they had met with Jane specifically just a few times before she later became a government witness, and that they were really kind of putting an emphasis that even though Diddy is currently paying her rent and Diddy is currently paying for the lawyer that she has representing her, that Diddy didn't even interfere even though he's paying for her attorney. And that Jane was explaining once again to the jurors that she hasn't spoken to Diddy for 8 months prior to taking the stand or even seen him, because obviously he's been incarcerated since the last time she saw him. But she saw last time.
Wow, they haven't spoken 8 months. He's paying her rent. Was paying, I don't know if he's still paying after today, was paying her rent and paying for her lawyer, and they haven't spoke. Good morning, Vegas. Nevada, good morning.
Saw him in person was August of 2024. He was arrested the following month, and she said she hasn't seen him since August of last year. And so
wow.
The defense was asking Jane about her preparation for the cross-examination, and that happened over 2 or so meetings with the government. Jane said that she wasn't the one who went to Homeland Security, that it was federal prosecutors who had called her, and that she didn't want anything to do with HSI. We learned yesterday while she was on the witness stand, still under direct, that HSI on the day of the raids to Diddy's Miami property as well as his Los Angeles home, that HSI actually left a card on Jane's door too. And so then the defense is kind of like, okay, well, you had done a night with an escort even after knowing that he was under investigation. And Jane says yes, and that Jane was given immunity to be a grand jury, or given immunity at the grand jury hearing. And then the defense is like, okay, well, you chose to participate. And Jane is like, well, it was because of my relationship with him and the lifestyle that he introduced me to. Well, you didn't break up with him. This is Teddy Garagos. And then Jane is like, well, of course not. And that they were really kind of talking about whether or not Jane has regret versus resentment versus regret. And that Jane was explaining that she didn't have regret, just a little bit resentment. And so I think for the jurors kind of listening to this, because I even said this yesterday, Jesse, you can feel sometimes while she's testifying that she still has feelings for Sean Combs. But then I think there are also other aspects where she's still kind of processing, and this is something that she testified to, just processing everything that went on throughout the duration of their relationship.
Elizabeth, would I be crazy to say that what I think the defense is doing is not necessarily, and we'll get into this, not necessarily attacking her credibility, that these things happen the same way they were attacking the credibility, let's say, of Mia or Brianna Bengolan, trying to say you were never sexually assaulted or you were never dangled off the balcony. But it seems what they're trying to say, and I could be wrong, you're testifying to something, and it's the government who's forcing you to testify. It's the government who's transforming your testimony about what could be a toxic relationship into this racketeering case, into this sex trafficking case. It's not like they're distancing themselves from these episodes occurring. It's not as if they're saying these episodes with other men didn't happen. But to me, it seems what they're saying, they're not even attacking her so much as trying to say, you didn't want to be a part of this. It's the government who's forcing you here. It's the government who's transforming your testimony into this federal charge when it's not. Real quick, do you think I'm totally off with that based on the questioning today? We'll get more specific about it.
Yeah, not at all. I felt that way kind of at times too, where it was kind of like, okay, do you feel like that, honestly, count 4 really applies to you, or is the government telling you that count 4 really applies to you? Because there were times, Jesse, to be quite honest with you, that I was like, okay, well, it seems that she was totally fine doing these hotel nights as long as she was also getting the love and adoration and affection from her partner, from her lover, from Sean Combs pretty much. And so I wonder when the jury goes back to eventually deliberate on this case, will they kind of have the same feelings that I think a lot of us were having, where they were kind of like, okay, do you feel that you are a sex trafficking victim, or is this something the government is telling that you are? And so it could go kind of either way. We'll see.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And I understand.
And the biggest thing is, if he would have ended and not paid for her rent and her lawyers, would that have made him look a certain way that now, you know what I'm saying? And was he sending out money to other females outside of Jane Doe? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Good morning, everyone. Please hit the like button. Please continue to hit the like button. Please continue to subscribe. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And the cross really focused on, and not surprising here, a lot about the love in the relationship and how she wanted to cuddle next to him and she wanted to be with him and, essentially do all these things. And even voice notes were played to show the loving relationship, right? Talk to us about that, because it might be difficult for a jury to reconcile that he is a sex trafficker and she's a victim based on our common understanding or general understanding of what those roles might be, versus the love in this relationship, right? Didn't they focus upon that at the beginning of her cross, the love and the voice notes? What happened there?
Yeah, well, Jane was explaining that there was a lot of kind of blurred lines in terms of her emotions and that she just wanted to fulfill her duties as a partner to Sean Combs. And so the defense was really kind of talking, to your point, Jesse, just about the love that Jane had for Sean Combs, aka Diddy, and just why she kept staying throughout the 3 or so years of their relationship, and that she kept on even doing these hotel nights, especially even during the later years where she was kind of expressing that she didn't want to be doing them anymore and this was all that she was worth. But as far as even that, when they were recalling that Jane would,
The breakup was bad, but I couldn't stop thinking about my ex.
So did we see after his house got raided? How many women did we see him with after the raid? I'm trying to remember. After the raid, who did we see him with? Like the video, fair use, reaction clip.
so happens to be Dateline. Unfortunately, I was waiting to hear that it might have been Sidebar presented by Jesse Weber, but unfortunately it was Dateline. And Diddy was smiling as Jane was talking about doing flip rubs on him. And I thought it was an interesting kind of moment where he just kind of, took the mask off a little bit and was smiling just about that particular part of the testimony. But then, yeah, we started kind of getting into the exhibits as far as the voice notes goes, because this is a very, or was a very current relationship. So there was a lot of text shown and there was a lot of voice notes shown, because that's what a lot of people do nowadays, as opposed to texting or calling. They send voice notes to one another. And so they kind of took us back a little bit to their Turks and Caicos trip when they two first kind of got together. And so we heard an exhibit, and it's a voice note from Diddy to Jane, where Diddy is saying, "Hey, baby, we had a great time. You are the crack pipe." And the crack pipe was kind of in reference to, I guess, their love making, essentially. And that Diddy was saying, "Okay, stay in the light. It was so much effing fun. Get in your bag." And the "get in your bag" comment, according to Jane, was kind of acknowledging that love contract where they had like a gentleman's agreement for him to pretty much pay for her rent. And so then we hear a voice note from Jane to Diddy where she's like, "I love being up under you. Stay in the light. We'll have a big celebration for you. A whole new level was unlocked. I've been closer to you. I'm so happy. I hope you have an amazing day today. Health is wealth. I love you so, so, so much. Mwah. Yay to your contract." And that contract that she was referring to was the love contract. And so it seemed like we were kind of hearing a lot of other voice notes where Jane was kind of expressing her love to Diddy, and Diddy was kind of expressing his love back to her, as opposed to yesterday under the direct, where really the prosecution was kind of showing the more kind of aggressive voice notes where Diddy was telling her to get out of her feelings and that he's single, all of that stuff. But as far as today goes, the defense really kind of was like, okay, well, there was love there. You two were expressing love with one another, and you seemed comfortable expressing your love with your partner at the time.
I think yesterday it seemed what they were trying to say is, oh, this is examples of Sean Combs being manipulative, coercive, deceptive, these subtle elements for sex trafficking. Is it a stretch? I don't know. I will tell you, a big focus has been made about what he's been paying her, right? Getting her gifts, giving her cash, and paying her rent. Particularly since we learned yesterday that he's apparently still paying her rent. Where it becomes the sex trafficking component is, was he dangling it over her head, right? Financial.
I don't know who Jane Doe is. I don't know who Mia is. I never looked into that. If the courts are stating that they are to be anonymous, they are to be anonymous even in my head. I don't know who these people are. Jane Doe is Jane Doe. So certain people that are going into the courtroom may know. And then if you guys don't know, I think there was a slip up in the courthouse yesterday and information was slipped up. So that's why there were some concerns yesterday in the courtroom. So we're cautious over here. Other pages are not as cautious as we are. I want to protect my page. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for being here, everyone. I don't know if Carisha is going to take the stand. I don't know. And is she going to go under a Jane Doe name too? I don't know. It's very interesting. We still don't know who all the people that will take the stand. So where are his bodyguards? What's going on with KK? You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing. The chef, the driver, people that was in his life day to day for the last 10 years. I would imagine they would be the last 2 to 3 weeks. And even if they're on the stand for, 2 hours, at least we're getting their testimony of who worked for him, who was with him, what they saw, what they heard, and what they helped with. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. Good morning, Norway. Let's continue. Fair use.
Control. I'm controlling you. You have to do what I want. There was a back and forth today about whether, in fact, he was actually threatening to withhold rent, right? And if he was, that could help the prosecution's case to say, oh, he's using that to get what he wants. Was that clarified today?
So yeah, at first, the defense was really kind of talking about the positives of the relationship with Diddy, and that Diddy gave Jane confidence, that he showed her a different perspective and introduced her to gospel, and they would put gospel sermons on television. They would send gospel sermons to one another, and that I felt like the defense was kind of trying to pull.
They would listen to gospel. And did you also hear that his favorite show, I'm trying to remember, is Dateline? That was interesting, finding out what his show was. And then she would shower him up and wash him up. Interesting. Fair use reaction clip. Be kind in the comments, you guys, because YouTube will also block comments. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Now, just Diddy's kind of more gospel side as opposed to the other stuff that we're listening to in court. And then they kind of got into the businesses that Jane had for herself, where Jane was explaining that she has a swimwear line, she has a dress line, she has other businesses, but that Diddy also invested in her businesses. $20,000 he put into her dress line on top of.
So did y'all know that he invested in her dress line? Good morning, South Africa. Good morning. Yeah, he invested in that.
The other funds that he was paying for her, including her rent later on, including just other aspects, and on top of that, gifts that she was getting. And so Jane was explaining that she has kind of this minimal style dress line, and Tinny Garagos was like, so you went from content creation to apparel, and Jane was like, well, the apparel needed a lot out of me, and I was doing a lot with Sean Combs around this time. Tinny Garagos is like, well, how much did you make from your influencer creation? And Jane was like, well, if I booked 2 brands, that would be $50,000, which in influencer terms, maybe it's not a lot of money. To me, it's an extremely amount of money just to kind of post content for 2 different brands, and whether that be photos or videos or that type of stuff. It seemed like the defense was kind of like, okay, well, you can make $50,000 in this particular instance, and according to your testimony where you're saying Diddy's paying, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, the defense didn't really get into it, but I'm thinking in terms of if she's getting $10,000 for her rent alone, this $50,000 from a brand deal would pretty much pay 5 months of rent. And so then Tinny Garagos is like, well, you're also getting child support, right? And Jane was like, yeah, $5,700. And it seemed like, yeah, the defense was definitely pointing out she's making other income as far as brand deals, as far as child support goes, that she really didn't need the financial payments that she was getting from Sean Combs. And then they kind of got into her OnlyFans page, where Jane was saying that Diddy didn't want her to be a part of something that was frowned upon because of the stigma that comes with OnlyFans. And Jane was saying that she joined the website because she needed the money. She needed it financially. During her direct testimony, she was explaining that she maxed out a few credit cards because she went into so much debt. And I think the defense was kind of like, okay, but you're making all of this money. Are you spending it frivolously? Are you living within your means? And then Jane, after saying that she joined the website because she needed the money financially, the defense kind of pointed out that Diddy was proud that she joined OnlyFans, and that she was proud that she was making her own money because OnlyFans was a pretty lucrative business. And still, to some influencers or creators on that app, still is a lucrative business. And so Tinny Garagos is like, well, you didn't need his permission or approval, and Jane was explaining that she wanted his approval. And I think that kind of makes a difference a little bit sometimes too, Jesse, between the difference of Cassie's testimony versus Jane's testimony, where Jane kind of, while she's on the stand, seems like she really just wanted Diddy's approval over just every aspect of her life, whereas under Cassie's testimony, it seemed like the approval that she had to get kind of put her kind of in a stranglehold, in a sense, where she felt like she had to get or she felt like Combs wouldn't do anything without the approval, whereas Jane was like, well, I need his approval to do these things. And the defense is kind of like, well, did you need the approval? But I think
I'll slow it down a little bit. But yeah, that's what we do over here, just to recap, replay, because we want to get to the next topic. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
The defense kind of did a good job here, really kind of being like, okay, there's a lot of money just kind of floating around from all these other deals and lines and apparel that you have, but you needed this money from Combs because
Ultra fire cervical.
Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. We go fast over here. Some people can't keep up. Some people repeat themselves. We go really fast over here. You got to be able to be fast and think fast. Thank you. No problem. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Yeah, it's all about control. It's all about control. The more that the prosecution can establish that he was controlling their financial livelihood, their appearance, whether or not they were seeing other people, that goes to the idea of fraud or coercion, maybe even force for sex trafficking. And it's kind of a gray area now. And speaking of that, because the defense has been very keen to characterize these relationships not as one of a sex trafficker and victim, but these are toxic relationships built on love and jealousy and anger. And you put aside the idea of freak-offs and hotel nights, which everybody might not be familiar with or engage in anything like that, that these are common elements, and maybe even violent elements that are unfortunate, but common elements we see in relationships. And the jealousy aspect of it came up a lot, right? The jealousy that she might have been upset or reluctant to engage in these hotel nights, not because she was a victim of sex trafficking, but wasn't it that, I don't want to be part of this if you're seeing somebody else.
And like I said before, he's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. It's not up to me to choose whether or not he's guilty. Let's continue. Fair use. Back to going fast because they're going too slow.
Or I'm not being treated like other girls on this, other girls, right? I mean, didn't that come out? Jealousy was a big factor in the cross-examination.
Yeah, it took up a pretty good chunk of the cross exam this morning. And so while Jane was testifying under direct, she did testify that Diddy kind of explained that the two had an open relationship and that she was fine initially with him seeing other women. But then Jane, while under cross examination, was saying that Diddy described himself as polyamorous, and that she said at first it was something that I didn't mind, but then as feelings grew pretty deeper, that she said it was hard for me, the imbalance of just the treatment. And so Jane was saying that she didn't say the nicest things about the other women that Diddy was seeing, that she had called them hoes and just other just not so nice things, and that she admitted she was jealous. They brought up one particular relationship, and that was with Carisha, aka Young Miami, where Jane was explaining that
So now they're about to talk about Young Miami, which we talked about Young Miami in the beginning. Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
Miami bothered her because Diddy was so public with her, and we even think back to around that time frame, which it was pretty true. I thought that honestly, Young Miami and Diddy were in a monogamous relationship together. They were always together. He had come onto her podcast, and then he took her to the Met Gala, and the two seemed like they were in a really loving relationship. But according to Jane, she was kind of in the shadows around this time period, and so she was saying that Diddy was so public with Young Miami, and it made it seem like the two, those being Young Miami and Diddy, were monogamous together. And she said, I didn't sign up to be in a relationship with someone who was public with someone else. And so she said that Diddy gave Carisha a Maybach, which is a very expensive car, and Jane said that she wanted something.
That's a very expensive car. And then the shopping spree too. And then remember, they used to talk about Young Miami used to have an allowance. Remember that? The allowance that she was getting, and then he tried to reduce it, and Young Miami was like, bye, I'm not going to deal with this. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Will other women take the stand?
Nice as well. And then the defense was kind of like, okay, well, you were jealous of Diddy and his other women, but Diddy was kind of jealous of you too. And the defense brought up Bear, and that's the man who Jane had met previously, but after she and Diddy had like an off period, Bear sent Jane $9,000, and that Diddy was pretty upset about it and was jealous about it. And so it seemed like, just like Cassie's testimony, there was jealousy aspects in their relationship.
It's interesting. He can be out flaunting and be with other people, but he doesn't want the women he's dating to be with other people. You know what I'm saying? The control part of that is interesting. The control part of that, the women can't be with other people. He can date whoever he wants in public, in quiet, and then the women are expected to do these FOs. It's just crazy to me. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Of Gina also and Jane's testimony too, and so it seemed like there was kind of like a little trickle effect of just the bottom line being that Diddy was seeing other women. Maybe when he was with Cassie, wasn't telling her that he was seeing other women, but he told Jane specifically he was seeing other women, and so it seemed like that was kind of a big point as far as Jane was concerned, as far as why was she having to go out and book the entertainers and do these hotel nights when he's over doing other things and social media with another woman that he was seeing. And on top of just Young Miami, there were other women that were listed too that Diddy was seeing all around the same time.
Prosecution could say, oh, this is an example of his manipulation.
And just like this situation that is flashing, Diddy did not want Cassie to be around other people and other people putting in ideas in her head. He didn't want that. So did you notice in certain testimonies, Diddy would make sure if you're friends, if Cassie was friends with somebody, and if they came around Cassie and Diddy, there would be an issue. So he wanted people out of Cassie's life. He wanted people out of certain people's life because he know that they would be in their ear. One of the young ladies didn't meet Diddy for almost a year because of what Cassie was going through. So concerning. So from what's being alleged is so concerning. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
He's leading these women on to get what he wanted. They also focused on Combs' drug use.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if the defense was trying to excuse some of his behavior or offer, I wouldn't even say a defense, but they did put an emphasis on what he was going through, right, or seemingly going through. And that came up, by the way, during the whole 2016 Cassie purported beating, right? He was messed up, he was on drugs. In his apology video, he said that. Didn't they talk about his drug use today, too, under cross?
Yeah, and the drug use kind of was brought up at various different points during Jane's cross-examination today, but it did start this morning where Jane was saying that she knew that Diddy was consuming drugs, but didn't really, I guess, recognize or realize the quantity and the amount of drugs that he was consuming when the two initially got together. And Jane was saying, I could tell that he wasn't taking care of himself. I thought he had jaundice in his eyes, his gums were gray, his hands were shaky, and that Jane was the one who...
Did y'all hear that? What she had said about the health? She was concerned he had what? Let me go back. 26, let me go back.
Was trying to excuse some of his behavior or offer, I wouldn't even say a defense, but they did put an emphasis on what he was going through, right, or seemingly going through. And that came up, by the way, during the whole 2016 Cassie purported beating, right? He was messed up, he was on drugs. In his apology video, he said that. Didn't they talk about his drug use today, too, under cross?
Yeah, and the drug use kind of was brought up at various different points during Jane's cross-examination today, but it did start this morning where Jane was saying that she knew that Diddy was consuming drugs, but didn't really, I guess, recognize or realize the quantity and the amount of drugs that he was consuming when the two initially got together. And Jane was saying, I could tell that he wasn't taking care of himself. I thought he had jaundice in his eyes, his gums were gray, his hands were shaky, and that Jane was the one who suggested that Diddy go to rehab. And then
gums were gray and hands were shaky. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Please don't forget to subscribe, you guys. Continue to hit the like button. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Just double tap the screen to hit the like. Super chats are welcome. There's memberships over there. Please support the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
He was like, okay, you felt at the beginning that he was a drug addict. And Jane said, well, I felt like he was overdoing the partying. And Jane says now in 2025, she does believe that Diddy is a drug addict. And then later on, they're kind of talking about that she found out later on that he was taking antidepressants, specifically Prozac and other medications. And that Diddy at one point mentioned to Jane,
let me guess, you're thinking about going to therapy.
Fair use reaction clip. That's concerning. Why is his gums turning gray? I've never even heard of that. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Medications, and that Diddy at one point mentioned to Jane about doing kind of a ketamine therapy treatment. And so then they kind of touched more into the drugs, where Jane says that she admits if there were drugs that she didn't like, she didn't particularly take them. And those specific drugs that she didn't really like were ketamine and cocaine, but she did like ecstasy, and she was totally fine taking MDMA or Molly, and she was fine to take the ecstasy because she says that she kind of wanted to do it in order to be more sexually kind of flirtatious with the other men during these hotel nights. And she said, it got me out of my wine. I could focus on the sexual moments. And so I think as far as the drugs is concerned, it seemed like there were one points where they're kind of like, okay, well, did he use these drugs to be creative? He was in a better mood when he was on those drugs, specifically when he would take ecstasy, and he would do this while he was also making music, that it wasn't specifically only to hotel nights. But then there were other parts of the testimony where it seemed like they were kind of using the drugs to be like, okay, well, you see that Diddy has a problem too, right? And so it kind of went both ways as far as I think where the defense was going. And so depending on which juror it is, or depending on the group altogether, I feel like it could go either way on just what their thoughts are on as far as drug addiction, drug treatment, and whether or not these were taken recreationally or versus he had a problem. And so it really kind of was a little both that we were hearing about today.
Well, they want to avoid the prosecution's narrative, which the prosecution's narrative is he deliberately drugged women in order to take advantage of them and make them more compliant for freak-offs or hotel nights. So the more they can get away from that narrative that drugs were used nefariously for that purpose, I think that's what they're trying to do. Let's go to the racketeering. So the more you can talk about assistants or staff or bodyguards that help facilitate these, if the jury accepts it, sex trafficking crime scenes, hotel nights, freak-offs, the more you can show his inner circle was committing crimes or covering them up, that's how you get to racketeering. That's how you get to a criminal enterprise. That's how you get to a criminal association. My understanding is Jane was asked a lot about Combs' assistants and what they knew about what was going on. And more specifically, she was asked about a very familiar name, somebody who I believe is going to have to take the stand. She's come up, I think, in every single person's testimony. Sean Combs' purported former chief of staff, Christina Coram. So what did Jane have?
That's going to be interesting about Christina Coram. If you're watching from a phone, please press 1. If you're watching from a phone, please press 1. Can you please double tap the screen to get the likes up? Can you please double tap the screen to get the likes up? Press 1 if you're watching from a phone. Double tap the screen. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the likes to 100, please. Let's continue. Fair use. Let's hear what they got to say about KK.
Say today, what was she questioned about regarding Sean Combs' assistants, their knowledge about what was going on, and Christina Coram?
Thank you.
I thought one thing that was interesting that was revealed during Jane's testimony is that Diddy didn't want these entertainers or these escorts, these other men that they were using during these debauchery nights, wild king nights, hotel nights, over to his home. Why? Because there was a lot of staffers over there. He had a house manager, he had other assistants kind of running around. And so despite kind of what the government is alleging, where these assistants really helped set up these hotel rooms and these hotel nights specifically, that in some aspects that some of them may not have known that this was even going on. I think that's where the cross-examination was really kind of pointing to. But Christina Coram was brought up kind of a couple of times. To your point, Jesse, I feel like there hasn't been a day where she's not brought up in some aspects. So I do kind of hope she testifies. It would be kind of weird, I feel like, if she didn't testify at this point. But the jurors were able to see some text exhibits. Unfortunately, I was just kind of hearing it as they were going and talking about this. But they saw a specific text exhibit between Jane and Christina Coram, where this is from April 9th of 2021, so kind of early-ish in their relationship, that being between Jane and Diddy. And Jane told Christina, hey, we got papped, and papped means paparazzi. And she's texted Christina that I'm shaking because Jane didn't want everyone to know about their relationship at this point. She was worried that these photos would get out into the blogs, and there might be other questions that come up after this. And so she's saying she didn't want her relationship to be public. And that for people to know that they were in a relationship. And Christina responded, well, I showed him those particular paparazzi photos. There are other people in this picture, so don't worry about it. And so Jane said that she was worried about her child's father finding out, but she was also worried about her friend finding out. And that was the friend that kind of introduced them really together, as far as when she had first started seeing Diddy, that she was actually over at his place with the friend that was actually seeing him, and she didn't want this friend to know that Diddy and her were in a relationship. And so then there were other times where Christina Coram was brought up. And
so whoever Jane Doe is, will the baby father try and take custody of the child once he gets those transcripts? Good morning. Good morning. Continue to hit the like button, you guys. I see that the numbers are going up. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. All you have to do is double tap the screen to hit the like. Hitting the like button is free, free, free. Super chats are welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to hit 38K. We're trying to hit 38K. Continue to hit the like button. Thank you, you guys. I appreciate it. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
So that was when we heard about these text exhibits, specifically between Jane and Christina Coram from December 2nd of 2021. And I think this is where the part gets a little dicey as far as possibly count 1 goes, where they're just...
Good morning, Paris. I started early, girl. I sure did. I was up early. Everybody say good morning to Paris. She's one of my day one. She was with me when our page only had 3,000, 4,000 subscribers. Now we're almost at 38K. Everyone say good morning to Paris. She's my only mod. One and only. Thanks for being here, everyone. Say good morning to Paris. Thanks for subbing. I appreciate that. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Discussing flight options and how Jane was flying a package with, or had a package with her, and that was, drugs that she had packed into her checked baggage to give to Diddy.
Also, for a man to ask a woman to travel with substances, there's no way. He don't care for you. Real talk. Wonder if she would have got caught up. Would he have, paid for her lawyers? Women, be careful. Don't let no man get you through and put you through something that can get you caught up with the law. Never break the law for no dude. They don't care that much for y'all. You understand? That's crazy. Not only he got you carrying substances to travel, he also is expecting you to FO and men and not protection, be with them, and a man is basically watching you and video recording it. Man, he had some issues, y'all, period. Let's continue. Fair use. And that was the other thing. He always wanted them to be with other men. Why wasn't it other women? You understand what I'm saying? And then to play in the sloppy seconds. They had to release, and then he wanted to play in the sloppy seconds. Gross me out. Somebody said that yesterday. Why was it not woman on woman? And it was man on his women. Where they do that at? Why would you imp your woman out like that? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Diddy was asking her to do it, and how Christina Coram was like, okay, I've done this before, but I think...
If you told me a few years ago that both my...
Like the video, like the video. It's going to be interesting to hear about Diddy's relationship with KK. And did they ever... I'm just saying. If you've been to my page, y'all know I'll say something, and then y'all got to fill in the blanks. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, why was it that he always wanted it to be, and they had to be well, and they had to be big. Let's just say it that way. You know what I'm saying? So when I was listening to pages last night, they're saying to play in it, it's almost like, was he watching the videos outside of being with the women and getting off on that too? And I'm wondering if we're going to hear if things ever turned the other way. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm sorry, I gotta be careful. Let me continue. Fair use reaction clip. It's all interesting, y'all. How the employees were treated, how the women he claimed to love, and since he knew that he was being watched, was it a little different for the last 2 years? Was it different for those women for the last 2 years? Because he knew he was being watched. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, interesting to me.
That was part of the reason why Diddy kind of felt some ways about Jane during specific aspects of their relationship. But in terms of just the other staffers, to the point I was making earlier, Jane was saying that the staff didn't see Diddy particularly with these entertainers or these escorts, and that they ended up just kind of showing up with the money. And I think that also kind of may go into the government's view of the case as far as count 1, where the assistants would kind of bring money. But according to Jane, it felt like, okay, maybe the assistants didn't know why they were bringing large amounts of money, or maybe they could read between the lines. But that Jane was also explaining that Christina Coram might not have known about the escorts too, which I kind of find that hard to believe just a little bit. But according to Jane, it seemed like the staff may not have been 100% in the know of what was really going on at these hotel nights. But it seemed like from the staff, maybe they...
Yeah, and he had it tight. Did y'all see that video I had yesterday? And certain women, their features were very similar. Even allegedly with Gina, very similar features. Light skin tone, nice hair. You know what I'm saying? The only difference is definitely Young Miami. There's a difference with Young Miami for sure. Thicker, in entertainment. I'm wondering if I can't wait to see if she takes the stand, hits the stand, if any of his ex people he produced will take the stand. The bodyguards, like I said, the bodyguards, the chefs, we want to know more. And then KK, I'm hearing different things. I'm not going to say much, but I'm hearing different things about what's going to happen with KK. Will she take the stand, or will something being plot planned in regards to KK? Because you got to remember, there's other men that have did similar stuff to Diddy, and some of the women that stood by those men, that worked for those men, some of the women are in jail. Let's see. Mm, yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting in regards to his dating situation. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
They did know a little bit about it, but we can't all get into their head, right?
Well, for a racketeering conspiracy, right, a criminal agreement, they better all be on the same page and know what's going on, and they'll have to work towards a common purpose using common methods and means. Otherwise, it's a very disjointed situation.
And are there other men in the industry doing similar things, or have they stopped because they see what Diddy's going through? Fair use reaction clip.
And the more that the defense can show a lack of knowledge, the more they say this is not a racketeering conspiracy, which is, by the way, I think why Christina Coram has to testify to be that connective tissue, because if she's going to be a government witness, I'm sure she'll be the person, or who they hope to be the person, will say, everybody knew what the game plan was, everybody was on the same page, everybody knew what we were all doing here. It's common knowledge. They need more of what David Jameson testified to, that when he joined, everybody said, oh, Sean Combs' kingdom, we're all here to serve it. They need more of that in order to get racketeering. By the way, though, focusing on the idea that Jane was not a victim but a willing participant, that she set up these events, that she agreed to do all these things as a way to please Combs or see Combs, that came up too, right? Like her being setting up these hotel nights, being what they're trying to say, an active participant in the hotel nights, and that she agreed to them not because she was feeling pressure, but more as a way to please her partner, right?
Yeah, and the defense kind of right at the beginning of their cross-examination was kind of like, okay, well, you kind of unlocked this really secret and private aspect of Sean Combs' life. He only trusted you with this specific aspect of his life, and that being the hotel nights. And then Jane was explaining why she even liked doing these hotel nights, and she said that she loved when she and Diddy were making love, and that Diddy was telling her that he loved her, and says that she just wanted to feel closer to her partner and to her lover. And I feel like the defense kind of right off the bat was making it seem like she was a willing participant, and that she was willing to do whatever it was to make her partner at the time very happy. And so Jane was explaining kind of around the time that she was first doing these hotel nights. She was 35 years old when she and Diddy got into a relationship, and that when they were talking as far as whether or not Jane was picking out the outfits herself or getting approval for the outfits that she would wear during these particular nights, Jane said it was kind of a little mix of both. That a mix of both when Jane and Diddy were in Turks and Caicos together, that he laid out a whole bunch of lingerie and high heels for her, and then Jane was asked, you could see a lot that he enjoyed being in these hotel rooms with you, and Jane replied yes. The defense said, okay, well, you appear to be enjoying yourself, and Jane was saying, well, it was the drugs, and the defense was kind of asking Jane,
oh, this page be telling women, protect yourself. I tell people to go check on their mothers, check on their nieces. I tell women, mothers, teach your daughters different. This page don't be not holding women accountable. This is helping women know that your man should not be treating you this way, disrespecting you this way. Also, employees should never have to go through and fearing no boss. This whole situation is concerning, very toxic, very concerning. This is why we cover it the way we do. I can't, it concerns me when men support what's being said. You would not want your mother going through this. You would not want your daughter going through this. You would not want your niece going through this. We wouldn't want men that are dating men going through this. Having the substances and not allowing protection to be there to protect the person you say you care about, it's all concerning. It's very concerning. Very concerning. Yeah, it's concerning. It's very concerning. This whole situation is concerning, what's being alleged. And like I said, he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We're going to see what's going to happen in regards to how they feel about this whole case. But let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
A little bit about what aspect of the drugs made her, I guess, appear to be more willing, I guess. And Jane was explaining that on ecstasy, that you would feel more uninhibited.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to be treated this way. Why so many people are covering it? Because this was hush-hush for so many years. Hollywood, Hollyweird. These celebrities are doing a lot. It's not just him. We hear about the swinger life. We hear about what these parties are entail. And a lot of stuff has calmed down. But we hear about the music industry. We hear and we see what's happening at award shows. There's so much that's concerning in regards to the music industry, period. It's not just him, but there's more probably still out there trying to be a mini him. what's being alleged. Let's continue. And we haven't even gotten to, remember how there was lawsuits that were being talked about 7 or 8, 9 months ago. People in relationships should be respected. You should not have to be catching and having concerns in the mouth, the stomach, and your parts. It's all not well. And that's why so many people are covering it. Even other cultures are talking about him. And they're not even covering some of the other lawsuits that's out there. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Don't forget, memberships are over there, you guys. Super chats are welcome, you guys. Continue to hit double tap the screen. All you have to do if you're watching from a phone, press 1, double tap the screen to get the likes. Let's get the likes up to 100. Double tap the screen, please, to hit the like. To hit the like is free, free, free. Everybody, super chats are welcome. Paris, you've done enough. I appreciate you. Paris has been my day one. Other people can send in super chats. Paris has done her part. She's been so supportive to the channel. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And sexual, and you could do things for hours and do a bunch of fantasy talk. And that did.
People are covering it. If y'all knew how much, I'm not even gonna go there. I have other stuff I do. I do this for y'all because I want to debunk stuff to bring the TTT, but people are not getting alleged paid by YouTube like they were. People literally have to almost go live almost several times a day to make decent. You know what I'm saying? And then there's people that's doing well if they are getting paid promotions or whatever, if they're getting like advertisements or whatever. But let's continue. Fair use. The whole subject in regards to him is concerning because Hollywood, Cat Williams told us Hollywood be exposed. Period. Let's continue. And Diddy hasn't been the first. There's been other people that's gone to jail. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
You just love doing role playing, and then when they kind of talked about the high heels that, when the HSI investigators were doing the exhibit photos and how Diddy in his Miami home had very large stiletto high heels, and Jane was explaining that normally the heels that she would wear are like 3 to 4 inches, not these 7-inch heels that she was made to wear pretty much in these.
If you want to make passive income online, I'd like to pay you $5,000 to $10,000.
Fair use reaction clip. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. Yeah, this whole situation's concerning, and this is what YouTube is. People make videos. That's what they're supposed to do. So I ain't blocking or knocking if people want to go live all day long. That's on them. If news can do it, other people can do it too. This is a huge, big topic. Real talk.
And said that there was an undertone of an expectation of me to make these arrangements. And so Jane is asked, okay, you made the choice to get on a flight to see him, and Jane said yes, and that she would go and see Diddy every few weeks, that it just kind of varied based off the schedule. And then even a little bit later on into her testimony, Jane said that she and Diddy would spend quality time together at these hotel nights. It would either be before the entertainer or the escort would arrive, that they would spend time together, and Diddy would say very nice things to her, show her love and affection. And then even afterwards, after the escort left or the entertainer left, that the two would be intimate all over again. And that there was one point where Diddy had to have surgery, he was on crutches, and that this quality time that they were spending together was pretty sacred for Jane. And then the defense was asking Jane about what she told the government during their meetings, and Jane told the government that she loved being with Diddy during these hotel nights, and that they had alone time even before the entertainer came, that they would drink alcohol together, they would do ecstasy, they would make love with one another, and that Jane told the government that Diddy would cater to her during these hotel nights, and again showing the affection. And Jane was explaining he's the most affectionate during these nights, and that she accepted the dynamic. And I think that can be kind of confusing for the jury, where at one point you're saying, okay, this was traumatic for you, this was a moment where you just felt like you were being used, you're getting emotional while under direct, but then under cross-examination it did kind of feel at some points during her testimony that she was totally fine doing these because this meant that she would be closer to Diddy. And she was saying, I know what I see this, I knew what I was seeing as this becoming, and that Jane told the government she wanted to prove to Diddy that she could do these types of nights. And so it seemed like at some points that she was a willing participant and totally fine with doing these hotel nights, as opposed to the government's point of the case where they were alleging that she was forced to do these hotel nights by her partner, by her boyfriend. But really it seemed like she was explaining it was kind of both ways at some point. So it depends on how the jury sees it, as far as, okay, during the early parts of your relationship in 2021, 2022, you were totally fine, but then you kind of see during 2024 that she really was just kind of over it too.
There were, I also understand, a lot of graphic messages, text messages that came up that, I don't know, arguably showed she consented to hotel nights, and she had to kind of explain them away, right? I know you can't get very graphic with what these messages say, but if you can give us just the general gist of what they are, and more importantly, I'm sure she was questioned about them. How did she explain them?
Yeah, so I think what the defense was doing is kind of a similar tactic to what they did with Cassie under her cross-examination, which is really show the jurors the messages from the earlier parts of their relationship. And so that's kind of what they did in this same aspect too, where the jury was shown text exhibits between Jane and Diddy, where Jane sent Diddy photos of her from a Halloween event, and she was asked whether or not this was for a magazine shoot that she was doing, and she was explaining, okay, well, no, it was actually for for me to go to this particular event, and that Jane had actually reached out to Cabral, one of the entertainers that they use, while she and Diddy were at a hotel later on from that evening, and that Jane said to Cabral, I'm pleasuring myself right now, and that Jane had planned for a hotel night a few days later too. So they had a hotel night on October 30th. They had a hotel night on November 4th, Diddy's birthday. They had a hotel night after Diddy's birthday. And so again, this is around the 2021 timeframe. So we saw a text, or we heard a text message from November 5th of that same year where Diddy told Jane to fly ATL out, and that was a nickname that they had for Cabral, again, that being one of the entertainers they used. And Jane said, okay, well, what do you want to see, baby? And then Diddy said so many things. And Jane said, you can only see the video if you're with me. And she sent a sexually explicit video. And Jane says that she was referencing hot oil in this particular text message. And then I think the defense was kind of like, okay, so you were fine putting this oil on yourself, and that hot oil being possibly hot baby oil. And Jane was saying, well,
Exactly, Paris. I would say for Jane Doe, she was the one of ones that kind of kept more of a log than the other ones. Because remember, we talked about that for a while. Why wasn't people keeping concerning logs? And this is going to be a learning lesson too. You have a concern with your boss, log it when you get home. Don't log it in the computer there, because if you get fired, you can't pull the information from the computer if you get fired. So yeah, remember how even when we talked about in regards to the lawsuits, hopefully people got police reports, hospital records. So if you're having a problem with your employer, hopefully you're logging it. This was a concern I had for June 8th. This was a concern I had regarding an employee or a boss. I spoke with, HR. Nothing was done. And that's the other thing too. People went to higher ups and they were like, okay, I'll talk to him. But then it would still continue. So there were so many concerns in regards to him being on stuff, and then him not being on stuff. He acted different. He acted different. Even in the relationships, they said after he would take something, it would kind of calm him down. And if he wasn't on that, he would have to take something to calm himself down even more. Yeah, I'm waiting to see if KK hits the stand. If KK hits the stand, and if Young Miami hits the stand, because remember how she had talked about how I got to be careful what I say, and then she tried to take it back and saying he wasn't doing that to her. Remember how they were saying with Cassie, a man streaming in her mouth, and then they told them to stop streaming so fast and to slow down. Remember how Young Miami said she was eat upon. So there, I'm wondering what she went through. I'm wondering if Young Miami allegedly will take the stand, or she'll be another Jane Doe. I mean, I don't know. If she's a Jane Doe 2 or 3, if there's certain things that's being said, then they'll kind of depict if that's Young Miami or not. But Jane is not for sure Young Miami, for sure. She's not. But we want to hear from, what I'm saying, in regards to the lawsuits in itself was telling. We can't confirm or deny if those lawsuits are accurate, but what's being talked about is concerning. It's so concerning. And some of these industry guys are probably still doing it on the sly. Even Kevin Hart for the BET Awards said, no parties tonight, y'all. No parties tonight. Everybody go home. That's why they allegedly said he did it on a Monday. No parties tonight. So Kevin Hart was interesting in regards to the award ceremony, but this is why he in jail. This is why they wouldn't allegedly let him out. There's so many concerns that's being talked about, and how it was so hush hush for so many years. So this is going to teach people too. If you think you're going to get away with it, people were scared to go to the police. People were scared to go to the hospital. Some people don't even have what he has, and people get caught up. She never should have been traveling with a substance. Never. That just shows that he didn't really care for her, and we're hearing that he really just didn't respect the women he was with. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
reporters hot, warm oil. And so they were really kind of getting into really just the graphic, really sexually explicit messages to a point where I was like, okay, I don't need to write all this down because I'm not going to repeat this on air. But there was one particular message from November 8th of 2021 where Jane said, night, baby, hope you feel better, sweet dreams. And he said, I'm good, baby, how are you? And then Jane said, I'm just doing a little shoot, and that being content creation, to do a content photo. And then Diddy was saying that he wanted to do sexually explicit things to her, and Jane was sending emojis back in reference to the sexually...
Yeah, diary, a journal, keeping notes in your phone is a good thing. On your calendar, keeping notes is a good thing. Concern with the boss. He looked at me today. Concern with the boss. It seemed like he rubbed up his, thing behind me today. Oh, he gave me a massage when I was getting coffee. You got to keep notes on stuff nowadays. Real talk. People are kind of weird in certain situations. You got to protect yourself. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Explicit things and just other things too. And then there was a text shown to the jurors the day after, and that being on November 9th of 2021, where Jane was expressing that she was aroused for Diddy, and that Diddy was saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? Be explicit. And then Jane sent a very sexually explicit message back. And then Jane will on the stand. I think this was kind of a...
Okay, I'm going to move forward from that one because there was one more I wanted to play. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Fair use reaction clip. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here for and where you're watching from. Let's continue.
We even talked about alleged victim 3 who may or may not testify in P. Diddy's criminal trial, but remember alleged victim 5? If you don't, I'm going to explain.
Hold on. Okay.
Sexual assault accuser to take the stand in an effort to support the prosecution's case of sexual abuse and coercion, which is part of sex trafficking and racketeering. But, by the way, right on the eve of trial beginnings...
Yeah, people have been weird for a very long time in the industry. But see, going to it and dealing with it and going to private hotels, see, many of these celebrities thought that they'd never be caught. And I'm wondering who these celebrities that's going to take the stand, if any. Hello, South Africa. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, Hollywood.
I believe during jury selection, the judge denied alleged victim 5 the ability to testify using a pseudonym. So, assuming victim 5 has not testified, and there's no reason to believe that she has of yet, I don't think she was called in any which way, the question is, will she testify? To what extent? Is she necessary? So for that, let me bring on criminal defense attorney Brian McMonigal. Brian's from the firm of McMonigal, Perry, McHugh, Meshach, and Davis. He famously represented Bill Cosby and Meek Mill. Brian, it's been a minute. Thanks so much for taking the time to come back here on Sidebar.
Well, Jess, thanks for having me back. It's always my pleasure.
What would be the value of victim 5 to testify in this prosecution?
You know, when you've got a case as a prosecutor with multiple victims, for lack of a better way to describe it, sometimes, you can call too many. I would think if I'm the prosecutors in this case, particularly given the avalanche of testimony regarding, the sexual depravity, the coercion, the domestic violence.
I think every testimony is good because we would have never known. He's paying her rent and paid for her lawyer. We would have never known that. Good morning, Australia. Good morning, Australia. So anybody that testifies, I think it's needed. But we want to hear from the people that worked for him. And maybe they just need to reduce each person 3 days. Get out whatever you need to get out and let's get to it. Let's hop to it. But we want to hear from people that work for him and we want to hear about his celebrity friends. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
What does one more get you? And does the one more put you someplace that you aren't already? And could, by calling just one more, you create a problem for yourself if, for instance, the defense has some smoking gun that blows that one witness out of the water? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how the prosecution feels right now in their case. I don't know what they're seeing from this jury. I don't know how the jury has received cross-examination, which has been significant and which has been beating a pretty consistent drum of, hey, listen, it's sexually depraved conduct. Yep, he's guilty of a lot of state crimes, including domestic violence, but he is not a racketeer. And getting back to your initial question, the answer is, where do they think they stand now?
Do you think the fact that we haven't heard more information about victim 5 indicates that she might not testify? I mean, how much advance notice does the prosecution need to provide that they're going to call her? Because in this sense...
Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. Press 3 if you know where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification. Let's continue. Continue to get the likes up, you guys. If you've already subscribed, thank you. If you've already hit the like, thank you. But let's get the likes up to 100. That's just to double tap the screen. If you're watching from a phone, press 1, double tap the screen. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
This list is sealed. We don't ever have an idea about who they're calling until like the day, towards the end of the day before. So when 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern rolls around, we start to get a sense of the judges, who are you going to call next? Maybe even at the beginning of the day, they'll give an indication about who they're going to call.
I met Jen after she was ghosted by an ex.
Thank you. Press 1. Continue to press 1. If you guys did not know, Young Miami went to the BET Awards, and someone was basically saying Young Miami responds to a fan after she's criticized at the BET Award, basically talking about her outfit, and it's basically saying to Young Miami, you're missing that Diddy money. I guess they're trying to say that her outfit was less than appealing and it did not look expensive, and they basically dragging her saying, oh, are you missing that Diddy money, Young Miami? Yeah, interesting. Interesting. But for him to still be paying her rent for Jane Doe and helping with lawyers, he really cared about her, I guess, because she's testifying. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. We are going to get to hot topics in a little bit too. Fair use reaction clip. Let's go.
Cross-examined. Does that signal to you that she might not be called? Does it signify to you the prosecution may make they might be on the witness list, but they might make a game time decision whether to call her?
I think so. I mean, I would if I was them. I mean, why not make it a game time decision? I mean, do they really need it? What does it help them with in terms of the lead charges in the case? You know, particularly the racketeering and the transportation charges. I honestly don't know the answer, but I would say this. They sure do. I think they know exactly what they're going to do. I think they want to see how these witnesses fare. And one other thing, Jesse, you know this. You always want to start strong and end strong. And I guarantee you, as a prosecutor, and I don't know how many they've got on this case, some with some really great experience, they've made that evaluation. They started right out of the gates, as we remember, with the biggest piece of evidence they had. They're going to want to end with something very, very, very strong. And if 5 is not that, then you may not see 5.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that we don't know what's going on with victim 3? Again, I did a whole sidebar on it. We believe this is Gina, who has come up a lot during the course of this case as a potential love interest for Sean Combs, who is, seemingly a point of jealousy for other women that he was seeing, including Cassie, including Jane. You wonder what her testimony would look like. The defense had said at one point a couple weeks ago, she's not a part of this case anymore. The prosecution countered and said she's still part of the case. I don't know what's going on. There was reporting that they couldn't get a hold of her. They couldn't get a hold of her attorney. Again, if they can't call her, if she's not going to be an available witness, is it, well, we got victim 5, we could still bring in?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could simply be that. I think more than anything, as I've studied this, as I've watched it, as I've listened to the commentary of how cross-examination is going, you can, as a prosecutor, you can go too far sometimes, and a jury can get numb to something that they shouldn't be numb to. Is number 5 going to get up there and say something markedly different that they haven't heard for weeks and weeks? And if the answer to that question is no, then what did they gain? This jury knows that he's a deviant. This jury knows that he's sexually violent. This jury knows that he has a life based on this kind of conduct that is foreign to them and horrific in many measures. So what is it that they're going to accomplish by calling this witness that this jury doesn't already know? Does it get them?
Thanks, Paris. Good morning, DC. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, if you guys did not know, Portia Williams' husband, Simon Gobadia, was released out of ICE custody, and he was deported back to Nigeria. We're just going to talk a few hot topics, trending topics. Bow Wow was surprised that Sierra didn't hit the stand with him. He didn't even know Sierra was in the building for the BET Awards, but he said it's cool. He wishes she would have hit the stand. Sierra's married. She got several kids. She ain't gonna hit the stand with Bow Wow. And if she does, that's cool. But let's see. TD Jakes feel that economics empowerment should be taught in churches. I think a lot of churches are probably losing a lot of money right now. We're not going to get into that, but yeah. A lot going on in regards to the riots. A lot going on in regards to Elon and Trump. Kim Kardashian finally makes a statement because people were calling her out. That's what she likes to do that, though. She likes for people to call her out. She trends over that. And then she finally makes a statement and basically saying there's got to be a better way in regards to the riots. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the media. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass makes an announcement that she's going to have a uh like a curfew because there's so much going on in LA. LA, man, regards to the fires months and months ago, now all the riots, that's a concern. Many people hit the stand in regards to the BET. Erica Mena came up to Bow Wow. She was like, "Hello, can I get a hug?" If you did not know, Bow Wow and Erica Mena dated many years ago. Oh yeah, okay. Interesting. Gorilla and Yo Gotti hit they take the carpet together? That's interesting. Or did they meet up? That's interesting because remember, Yo Gotti was dating Angela Simmons for a minute. Like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. We're just doing a few hot topics, trending topics. Um, I don't want to get off without doing that. Yeah, but there's a lot going on. Yeah, Kim finally spoke out. She likes to promote stuff when stuff is going on, and then people will call her out, and then she'll make a statement. Those Kardashians are something else. Don't get me started. And they're definitely losing relevancy, as they should, because they like to copy people. Real talk. Some of the friends that they had years ago are they don't still have those same friends. Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Interesting to see Kevin Hart, Drewski, and Kai Cenat at the award show. Kim Kardashian speaks out to condone ICE raid, and she's basically saying there has to be a better way. And they're questioning whether she really graduated as well. Please be kind in the comments. Please be kind in the comments. YouTube will block your comments. Please be kind in the comments. Yeah, people are questioning if she really graduated. And why would you have a ceremony by yourself? So I can't confirm or deny she graduated or not. Don't really care. Yeah, YouTube will block certain comments. Yeah, YouTube will block certain comments. I can see it on this side. Yep. Yep. YouTube. Certain statements can't be made. Hot topics, trending topics. We're just going over a few different things. Okay. Oh my goodness. There's certain things I'm not even covering because I'm cautious to try and be protective of Jane Doe. Like I said, Instagram is trying to tell a different story. I'll just say that. But yeah, I'm cautious of what I say. Trying to protect Jane Doe. But if you're really paying attention to YouTube, and I'm sorry, Instagram is almost telling a different story. But we can't confirm or deny that though either. That's why I'm cautious about what I'm saying about Instagram. But yeah. Okay, so there's that. I just did updates in regards to hot topics, trending topics. Okay, you guys, I did my live. I made it through. Let's see. Will someone? Yeah, people know. YouTube will blurt out certain comments. There's certain things. I think I blocked out certain things before I came on. There's certain words you can't use, and they won't allow it. They want to keep the comments down to certain things, and people should know you got to watch what you say. And that's why I say when I see it on my side, I'll say be kind in the comments. Certain comments are blocked out. People, you can't just say anything on YouTube. You can't just do anything on YouTube. That's why I do my disclaimer. So it is what it is. I mean, why would you want to be disrespectful or unkind? We don't do that over here. Go on your own page and be disrespectful and unkind. So that's the biggest thing. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Real talk. Diddy's innocent to proven guilty in a court of law. It's up to a judge, jury if he's done any wrongdoing. This is going to allegedly go to July. I don't know if it'll be July before the 4th of July or after the 4th of July, but we definitely want to hear from his celebrity friends and the people that worked for him. That may come. Where's Gina? Real talk. Gina was one of his alleged girlfriends. Where's Gina? Can she just not testify and not speak up and speak out? Because her situation may be very parallel to Jane Doe and Cassie. Where is Gina? Real talk. Can you just avoid hitting the stand? I don't know. We're going to see what happens in regards to that. Her name was thrown out there because they dated and she did the interview. Go check out Gina's interview with Tasha K. It was years ago and what she experienced. So, copyright disclaimer: under section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. Continue to hit the like button, you guys. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. To hit the like button is free. To hit the like button is free. Please continue to hit the like button. But yeah, we did a general update on Jane Doe, what her relationship was with Diddy, how she liked to bathe him, how they were utilizing substances, what was expected of her, how they did the FOs as well, which was concerning. Um, and then he would date other people in her face. And she got mad, same as Cassie. She spoke out in regards to their dating situation. Yeah, what makes you think that all the people are black talking about this? Uh, yeah, there's a bunch of people talking about this case. There's a guy that goes live right at 9. He's been talking about the Diddy case every day. There's definitely a lot of people talking about this case. There's other cases that are going on as well. So fair use reaction clip. I appreciate you all being here. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Don't be caught up with no jokers. If they trying to play in your face, be like deuces. Leave them alone. You know what I'm saying? People try and play people. And these women made a choice. And sometimes he would state what he was into, but then it continued. And sometimes they would think that they're having a date night with him, but then there was a setup play for them to do an FO. And the concerning part is, it seems as if his partners are not being protected. That's a concern. Very concerning. Yeah, be nice in the comments. Paris don't play. She's my only mod. Why do you think she my only mod? I don't need a bunch of mods over here being weird in my comments. Paris the only one because she gets me. So if you're being weird in the comments, go on your own page and do you. You ain't got to be over here acting weird. We don't do weirdness over here. And if I see it, I block it. But I be so busy doing other stuff. So Paris, we're gonna have a great day. We're gonna have a blessed day. I appreciate you all. Thank you, Paris, for being kind, being respectful, holding it down. I appreciate you, Paris. People are weird, girl. Say they ain't got nothing better to do. And they haven't been taught to be kind. A lot of older people would say, you ain't got nothing kind to say, don't say it at all. Yeah. But it's all good. It's all good. I appreciate you all. Have a great, blessed day. Focus on healthy, safe relationship. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Everyone be blessed, be kind, be respectful. Keep your eye out. There's a lot going on in different cities. So hopefully the raid has not hit your city, but if it has, and they're cracking down on people looting too. So that in itself is a concern. So I'm trying to think if I'll do shorts after this video because I didn't do it this morning. I just went ahead and went live early. But thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for hitting the like button. Be blessed everyone. Goodbye.